again. All right, good evening again. Good evening again. My name is Maribeth Chima. Did I introduce myself earlier in the other two sessions? All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Maribeth Chima. If you're just joining us for the first time this evening, this is the Baby Steps to Purpose Conference. It's a yearly conference that we have in the Parenting Through Mentorship community and academy. It's our way of giving back. It's our way of giving back to our community. It's our way of welcoming new people to the community. It's our way of raising our flag of parenting and waving it around and saying there is a need to pay attention to this aspect of our lives. I mean, it's huge. I don't know if you think about it. It's huge that God actually picks you and then takes a human being and puts in your hand and trusts you enough to make the best with this human being. It is so huge. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there are I don't know if there are many other things in the world that we should pay attention to as much as we pay attention to parenting. Right? We've had two educators who have come in here to speak with us today. We had parents coaches who came here to speak with us yesterday. And what has been consistent in their conversation is the fact that we need to connect with our children. One, we need to pay attention to the foundation. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our children's life first at home. First at home before we take them anywhere else. I mean, if educators are telling us that the first 3 years of a child's life is about the most important part of their lives. Think about it. Where are your kids? I mean, where are our children between when they're 0 and 3? Who are they with most of the time between 0 and 3? So if we do not pay attention to this time in their lives, then we may be doing them more harm than good, right? And then again, even if you're there, if you don't know what to do with the children, it becomes a problem also. So it simply means there is one thing that is important, that we get knowledge. Wendy said yesterday that knowledge is a game changer in parenting in the 21st century. And I think Ronke just said practically the same thing too. For you to parent the Gen Z or the Alpha generation child, you must you must be knowledgeable. All right, so our next guest is a homeschooling parent. Okay, she's a homeschooling mom, and at some point I played with the idea of homeschooling for a long time. Like, I started reading about the benefits of homeschooling and all that, and the things, I mean, we've heard them say over and over again, where is your destination? Where is your goal? What are the outcomes that you're looking at? And because I adopted this strategy in my parenting, where I want to see, we decided to look at the end, right? We want to parent from the end. Where are we going to? So we have a picture of where we're going to, and so we want to parent from that point. How can we achieve where we're going to? So the idea of homeschooling, made a lot of sense because I was at that point where I was already thinking of parenting, and because as they say, children are different, right? So for my second, it was something, after weighing who she is and all of that, something just said to me, try this. And I decided to look for who to work with or who to hold my hand through the process. And so I went to ZOB, and I am an educator, but I want to tell you, when I went to this woman, I knew that I knew that I had just scratched the surface. So I said to you today that the women I'm bringing to you today are people who are educators from their heart, not because they are educators as for professions. They are teachers. They are people who are passionate about knowledge and about the next generation. So ZOB is our next guest, and she's going to be talking to us about homeschooling and parenting. She will tell us the connection between two of them. All right. Make some noise for the admirable Z Obey. Good evening, Z. I think I talked too much about you. I think I talked too much before I brought you on because there's just so much to say about you. Good evening, man. Thank you for taking a break
All
to
right.
come
Thank
and
you
spend this
so
time with
much.
us.
Yeah, I do appreciate Mary Beth. Honestly, I
Thank
do
you.
appreciate you. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to come and share once again. You all will agree with me on the community that Mary Beth is raising amazing children, people who inspire, and that's the truth. No flatteries at all. And I thank God for that because honestly, it's important that people see what is possible. If they can't
Mm,
see what is possible, they might not be able to tag along. For a very long time, I struggled with even sharing about my homeschool, you know,
mm,
why? Because it's not just me, but I found out that if people don't see, they really wouldn't believe. We have a lot
yeah.
of promoters everywhere, so you want to really see what's going on. That children
Mm,
being homeschooled can turn out to be really great and inspiring. Okay,
yeah.
so thank you once again, Marybeth, for this opportunity. Honestly, like Marybeth has emphasized, we can't continue making excuses in our parenting. Enough of that excuse. Many of us have left you
Absolutely.
there. If you are still there, we have left you long time ago. Yes, we can all make excuses, really. We can all make excuses. But some of us have decided to prioritize. And if you do not prioritize, you can't go anywhere. With these children in today, do you know what the time is? Do you really know what the time is? We are in deep, deep in perilous times, dangerous times, unpredictable times. All sorts of things you see every day come into your face, and you are still joking with that. Honestly, you rather it when you begin doing repair parenting, you find out that intentional parenting is actually very cheap. Thank you. You realize that intentional parenting is cheap when you start doing repair parenting, because repair parenting is so stressful, it takes more of your time. So honestly, we have to just wake up and smell the coffee, like they will say. We have to wake up and know what's going on. A lot of things are going on around us, and time. We really need to spend time bonding with our children. Okay, like I always say, homeschooling is intentional parenting because that is just the truth. What do we do in homeschooling that's really not intentional parenting? Nothing. You just you're just giving yourself to every aspect of your child's life. Homeschooling begins to make parenting make it more serious to you. Just like you having a profession now, you take it as a profession. You take it as something that's solely your responsibility. You take it as something that you have to give account for, that you have to make reports on. you know you don't have anyone to blame. No more blame games. You can't make excuses, funny and silly excuses. You can't do that. So that's just what homeschooling does, to your parenting. Okay, so if you're saying that I can't do this, I can't do that, then please, I tell you, I'm not disciplined. I cannot do parenting. You are just telling me that you cannot do homeschooling. Sorry, I'm not this. I can't do. You are just telling me you cannot parent. That's what you're telling me, because it's the same thing. That's the truth. All you need to do now is begin to learn the tools, begin to apply the tools, because they are tools, and they are there to help you to become better parents. Everyone who has taken my course ever has seen the difference in their parenting. There's more structure to your parenting, and that's what it does for you. Okay, so I particularly like the terminology of the theme of the conference, which is baby steps to profit. And why do I like it? Is because it kind of aligns with my mantra, which is helping you to maximize children's potential, right? And this was one of the core reasons why I decided to start homeschooling, because I wanted to maximize my children's potentials. If baby steps to purpose is is potentials, is grooming, is developing your children's potentials. Simple. Because if you are not developing your children's potentials as babies, as toddlers, then there's no purpose, so to say. So it starts from there. So, Marybeth, I found out that a lot of it's quite strange when you see that parents are not nurturing or they're not developing children's potentials, but they're expecting to for them to blow. They're expecting for them to sorry to use that word, but like in our parlance, blow. You want to just make it. You want them to make it. You understand so quickly, but you are not nurturing anything. You are not nurturing their potentials. And I found out that our educational system does not nurture potential. In fact, it cringes, it squeezes, it kills on the average. I know some schools will be trying to do this, but when you look for just on the average, you find out that most times they kill potentials. And I was not ready to go through that route. So as a parent, you might already be your children are in school and you are seeing, even though you don't want to pull them out, but you will know when somebody is trying to squeeze out their potentials and telling you that that's the best way to do it. Then you bring light to them and you will not let them destroy your child. So getting to know these things for yourself will help you, even though you choose to do a part-time homeschooling. But I tell you, homeschooling is inevitable. For someone, many of us do these things without knowing. But what I like to say is that there are so many other tools at your disposal, but you don't know, except you come and get knowledge. When you come and get knowledge, you will be able to apply these tools even yet more in your homeschool. All right, so today I will just be talking about, how homeschooling can improve your parenting. How homeschooling can improve your parenting. How homeschooling would improve your parenting. Number one, like I said, one of the reasons why I decided to homeschool my children was to maximize their potential. I wanted to maximize my children's potential because I heard that children, when they're born with billions of neural cells. But these neural cells die off. They die off when they are not connected, when they are not intertwined, they die off. And how do you intertwine them? How do you connect them? You can only connect them through stimulation. And if you agree with me, most of our nursery schools are not stimulating. Children are just sitting one place looking up at the ceiling. Most of our creches are not stimulating, you know. And I really wanted to stimulate my children's potential. So everything that's happening in my children today did not start from when they were maybe 5. It started from my womb, being very conscious of the fact that they came with potential and I need to begin to work it very fast. For those of you that have been thinking, oh, dear, I will take your course and all that, and you are still pending this thing, you are still waiting. You see, these children, it doesn't wait. You see those neurons, they don't wait. They die off. They do not wait. So you have to move very fast. They tell you 0 to 3. Do you know why they tell you that 0 to 3? It's what I'm telling you. 0 to 3 is a crucial period for your child. It's because of what I'm telling you today. Those cells don't wait for you. If they're not connected, they die off, they go. And that's why you see that these children are born with so much genius capabilities. But that's not what happens when they are 18. Because many of these things are died off because there were no stimulating environment. And that's why we always emphasize your home, you must create an atmosphere for learning in your home. There's no two way about it. You must. If you don't, you won't be able to trap enough potentials in your children. You will not be able to trap enough potentials in your children. You need a stimulating environment in your home. It's so important. And you find out that these children begin to flourish because the first level, you have done well with it. And their learning is like, building blocks. It's like just keeping on top of each other. If something is faulty in the foundation, it will affect the building. It surely will affect the building. So we have to think that way. We must think that way. My children's potential. I want to maximize this potential. And potential doesn't have to also do with only have to do with intellect. It has to do with their spiritual potential. It has to do with their physical potential. Many of us in our schools, in many schools, our children are made to sit one place. They don't move. And do you know there's a huge correlation with movement and even the brain and the functioning of the child? So, I saw a lot of these things and I told myself, you know what? I won't go there. I won't go to school and start arguing. If I know better, I should start my school, right? Or I should do something about it and stop arguing. I'm fighting with schools. Some of us know things better than even the people who teach our children. That's the truth, the honest truth. We know, but are you using it? No. You don't use it on your children. You don't. You don't, because you're just waiting for how to make the work easier. Can I tell you the truth? The work will only get harder when you keep folding your hands, because you are only mounting trouble for yourself in the future. Excuses will only defer your responsibility to the future. In the future, you begin chasing over children up and down, children you are not bonded with because you are too busy. So you begin chasing these children up and down. When you're not bonded with children, you will never hear what's going on in their mind. You will never know it. You will never know it. Many of us will turn to be counselors, going every other weekend to our children's homes to go and help maybe our in-law, our daughter-in-law or son-in-law, because our children are misbehaving. Who wants that kind of life? Me, I don't want that kind of life. And I was very clear about it from the beginning. I don't want that type of life. And I know you need enough time to do this job. You need enough time to do this job. These days, our schools take so long. Somebody was telling me even 6 o'clock, children are coming back from school. What time do you have to do the job? But I've seen parents, because they're so confident in themselves, they can say, you know what? I want my child by 2, because they know what they are doing behind the scenes. They can boldly tell the school that I want my child by 2. And I found that a parent who was a part-time homeschooler, she's now full-time, but when she was a part-time homeschooler, she did that with her child, and her child was always the best in class still. Do you get what I'm saying? She was still the best still. So some of us, there are a lot of myths that they have put into our head that we get so frightened at every little thing, like, oh, man, if I remove my child or if I start part-time homeschooling now, that means this child will be doomed. Nothing like that when you get the right knowledge. When you get the right knowledge, you will be fine. The truth is that God has ordained you as a trainer to your child. You are ordained. All you need to do is to go and get some more training or getting someone to hold your hand. You heard Mary Beth. She is a seasoned educator. I kid you not. A seasoned educator. But homeschooling has a twist to it. It has a twist to it. Because a lot of times for homeschoolers, what they are doing is, first of all, the understanding of the child. You need to know your child. You need to bond with your child. You need to know your child. It's not just about academics, but it's so much more. It's about your home. It's about doing life with your child. So it's not just about bringing school home. It's not bringing school home. It's much more. If you want to get more out of this, then you have to do it the right way. You just have to do it the right way. Homeschooling, another thing that homeschooling helps, it gives structure to your home. It gives structure to your home. When you train with me, you begin to understand spaces. You need to create spaces that your children can gravitate towards. You need to have structure. You need to have routines. need to have routine, because that's what begins to create discipline in your children. And of course, many of us at the back of our mind, we want to raise disciplined children. And many of us, there are goals in our minds that are top goals in our homeschool. But because of even the structure that our children have to run to school very early in the morning, and you don't want to start waking up a child at 4, you find out that some of us who have goals like having our children kingdom, grounded, we don't even do devotions with them. We don't even do devotions with them. Or we don't do as much devotions as we want. So already our children are already in this rat race, running up and down. They're already in the rat race, chasing things. Children leaving home at 5 with school bus, leaving home at 6 because of the distance of their school. Honestly, it's been my desire that we overhaul our educational system. But before that happens, my children's ages are changing. Before that happens, my children are growing. I can't wait. As we're trying to work on that end, I have to do something with my children. Because before my very eyes, my child's formative years is gone. Apparently, my first son is already going 10. And we are leaving the formative stage totally. So it doesn't wait for you. So as we're being hopeful for our educational system and trying to work something there, we need to do something with our children. We need to do something with our children. We need to do something with them. Homeschooling will help you raise lifelong learners. A lot of us don't like what's going on. So even though you are part-time homeschooling your children, and your children, are so attached to grades and passing examinations, you want to begin to turn their minds. Because this thing is causing a lot of problems. Children are beginning to lose hope in our educational system. They say it all the time. They say it with words like, or phrases like, school is a scam. They say it by exam malpractice. Exam malpractices. They are saying it's so loud, but we are not listening. Instead, we tell them to shut up. These children are telling you. But this what causes it, because we are not raising lifelong learners, because we are raising children just to pass exams. So many of these children don't actually learn in the classroom. They don't actually learn. They're just learning, they're just copying notes so that they will upload it into their brain during exam and download it for you and delete it later. So if you already see that kind of attitude in your children and you want to do part-time homeschooling, you want to begin to disabuse their mind for that. You want to begin to ask them questions on application of what they are learning in the classroom. Try and do that every weekend. Help them to know that learning is for application. I wanted to raise children who will learn because they wanted to solve problems. Because you agree with me that our nation has a lot of issues. And if we're not raising children who are original, children who want to solve problems, then we are in trouble. There's no future. There's absolutely no future. So honestly, we need to just wake up to the reality on ground. These children are complaining about the educational system. They have said it times and times again. Do you know why somebody is calling school a scam? Because he looks. When he's through with school, he still enters unemployment. He's not useful to himself. But he finds out that one boy over there who did money rituals is driving cars all over the place. And he's doing well, so to say. And he's finding that he's nothing to show for it. Because we have not equipped them with the tools that can make them succeed. You're just equipping them with academics. And that's why you as a parent, the onus lies on you to do that. It's your responsibility to begin to equip your children to succeed, whether you're part-time or full-time. Use the weekends to begin to train them. Many of us are even trainers. We train people, we are coaches. But how many of these things have we even sent down our children? How many of these things do our children own? How many of these things do our children know? How many of them? How many of them? But we are all over the place empowering other people. We can actually empower our children. If you are bonded with your children, you will know how to teach them. It's as simple as that. So honestly, when children are even in the exam, I can remember I was shouting some years ago that the way this exam malpractice is going, it's really terrible. We really need to begin to work this thing from the roots. And it has to do with the kind of education we are giving our children. If all our children do in class is to copy notes so that they can be able to upload and download it for you during exam, then delete it later, they will continue doing that. Because that copy note is already even training them for exam malpractice. That's what it is. Because you've not trained a child to know how to, take in information, digest information and bring it out in their own words, being able to explain things in their own words. If you're not spending time trying to bring this knowledge in a way this child understands it, so that these children can even form their notes themselves. Do you know forming notes is a strategy to kill this thing called exam malpractice? Because these children are so used to copying, copying, copying. So during exam, they just copy. They want to also copy. And the children are seeing that these things are not helping them. They're seeing that these things are not helping them. People are entering into money rituals. People are becoming, they see people that didn't even go to school become musicians and they blow. And they're wondering why they're wasting their time. Because they've not really understood. Nobody is really telling them what education is. There was a day my son told me something. I had changed his maths textbook, right? There was one maths textbook that was doing well, but during the pandemic, I decided to change his maths textbook because of getting it in here during the pandemic. It was like very difficult. So my son just told me, I don't like maths. I don't like this math. I don't want to do maths. I was like, why? I knew why. I knew because we have changed the textbook. But I told him something. I said, my darling, you don't like maths, right? And this is what we need to really drive home to our children. But many of us don't even know the reason why we even do some of these subjects. These children need to understand why they do these things. Every subject, they must know the reason and how those subjects will help them in life. They have to know. So I told my son, I said, that no problem. You don't like maths, right? No problem. But guess what? Will you be fine or will it be okay if you meet one of your friends, I call his friend's name, and tell her to count your money for you? And maybe probably she counts the money and she tells you a lie that it's she counts it, but she tells you a lie, so that she can keep some of it, because that that's just mathematics in play. Because she knows her mathematics, she can do that. But because you don't know your mathematics, you will have to beg someone to do that for you. And he said, no, 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 I want to do it by myself. I said, really? Okay, fantastic. So are we on the right page now? But I still remember that I needed to change that textbook. And I did. But I had to make him understand. And I told him the reason why he was. And I told him how he was enjoying mathematics before and why the change. Okay, so these children need to understand why they do these things. You cannot just tell them, just go and do it, just go and do it. These children are thinkers. Don't think they are idiots. They think. They think. They make comparisons. They think. One thing homeschooling will do for you is bonding. Like I always say, if you outsource all of your children's learning, you have outsourced all of your influence. Exactly, Mariam. If you outsource all of your children's learning, you are outsourcing all your influence. Because teaching your children is one of the is a very powerful platform for influencing them. Just look at it around us. People you call your coaches, you know they have influence over you. You know it. People you call your pastors, your imams, you know it that they have influence over you. But you as a parent, you pack everything and you are sourced to this teacher, are sourced to that teacher, and you don't even leave anyone for yourself. Even teaching your children to lay your bed, you go out their bed, you look for someone to teach you. Everything you are sourcing. You are sourcing all your influence, let me tell you. That's the truth. All your influence, you are giving it out, distributing it amongst other people. Even your children's teachers and friends are also their teachers. So you are sourcing it as much as you can. You are depleting your own. And that's what homeschooling does for you. It kind of helps you have that influence in a larger volume because you're teaching many things. But even though you cannot do homeschool full time, then do it part time. Spend time during the weekends to teach your children one or two things, three or four things. Spend time, be the one to help them with their homework if you can. It's very important. During car rides, use it as a beautiful time for character development. Teach them. There's time. When you come to Z, you know that you have time. You have time. Those small, small things there, here and there, will help you. It will help you do something. Daddy, if you are listening to me, please, equally you, mommy, if you are listening to me, there's something you can do with your children. Read aloud. They are amazing. What you can use good books to do with your children, good living books to do with your children. Amazing things. And you find out how much you have influenced your child before your child knows you. You know what they know from you. Bonding is so important. You see, I tell people, I say, don't even think for one moment that my children don't, they don't do anything naughty. Forget it. Don't even think for one moment that they don't do anything naughty. But do you know what happens? My ear hears it. I will hear somebody just saying, "Mommy, when you were not there, or when you were not there, we said this. I did this. We did this." And yet, when we are having abundance and when we are learning, I hear it. When we are doing devotion, I hear it. When we are cooking, I hear it. When we are doing read aloud, I hear it. You see confession time. And I will be able. So it's not about what your children do. But if there is no avenue for you to hear what went on in your children's life, then there's trouble. Because in today, it's so scary what children know. And even when you homeschool, your children will still interact with, to a large extent. They will socialize. There will be social interactions. They will go to church. You know, they will go to cousin's house, their cousin's house rather. So there will be interactions. But you want to hear it all. You want to hear it all. So homeschooling just gives that avenue because you seem to be available, you know. But it's not just being present, but you really need to be there with them. Create those opportunities for bonding. Largely during my children's bedtime, especially when they were smaller, it's time for sex education. Yes. Not because I always wanted to do that then, but they're always asking questions about their bodies at that time. So you can imagine if I outsourced that to somebody else, they will ask those questions to that person. And that's what it is. So we really need to be on top of it, on top of our game. No excuses. We cannot give excuses. We can't. What we need is to begin to pray to God to help us. Yes. Begin to pray to God to help us. Please, Lord, help me. God, help me. Come to people who have gone ahead of you so that they help you too. There's always a way. There is a way when you are actually willing. There is a way. Homeschooling accommodates special needs. I have a close friend of mine who homeschooled her son. Today, her son is over 10. You will not know that the son was non-verbal till he was about 7. You will not know. You will know. Because one thing homeschooling does for you, it gives you time. Nobody is marking you. Like, oh, your child is in this class, everybody is talking. Before you know, you shut down this child's potential. What you are brooding and you are grooming, you will kill it. Because you are just looking at the other children that are talking. You're just looking at the other children doing their milestones. Because most times, what we do, we try to compare children by themselves. It's very wrong. It's very wrong. That's a killer of potential in itself. A killer of potential. You destroy potential doing that. You destroy potentials doing that. Another thing is that there's a flip to that. Sometimes some children are hyperactive, and before you know, somebody's already labeling them. I can remember when I had to drop off my son. I've been homeschooling my children since they were born, but there was a day I had this business, and then I had just started, homeschooling full time, homeschooling, right? And I had to drop off my child. So I dropped off my child at a creche just for a little while. I think it was about 18 months then. I dropped him off, and when I came back, I was told that this boy disrupted the class and he was drumming, hitting because our homeschool is fun and all of that. And this boy was drumming on the table, and all the children joined him, to drum. I laughed and laughed, but that's it. In some scenarios, they are going to spank him. In some scenarios, they are going to tell him not to do that anymore, that he was disrupting the class. They're going to term him hyperactive. Before you know it, they will tell him that he has one syndrome. You understand me? And these are the things that are just natural to the child at that age. These are the things that will turn to be serious issues. And turn to be serious issues. Meanwhile, there's no issue. So sometimes when you give these things time, you will find out that the child will outgrow it on its own and move to the next stage. Especially when you're putting the right structure in place and you're talking to the child on your expectations. The child will grow to that stage. Okay? Homeschooling targets children's learning needs, their weaknesses. For example, if my child has not learned something, we're not moving to the next thing. Because nobody is coming to tell me that oh, you've not finished your syllabus. But sometimes these teachers, they need to be on their toes because provider, parents, you know. Meanwhile, maybe this child is not getting this thing as fast as others because the child is learning at his pace. But these people need to make reports. So they just have to do something. Okay? But in homeschooling, that's not the case. You have that time. And for example, if you are part-time homeschooling, please, you need to be on top of the job in the sense that check out these things. If you see loophole in your child, there's nothing like the 8/10. There's no such thing for me. That's true that the child didn't get. The child needs to know it. That's what learning is for. Learning Learning is to know, is not to know your grade. It's not to know whether you're a C student or a B student. No way. Learning is for knowing. And if that's part of the syllabus, that child should know it. So that's how I do my homeschool. There's nothing like, oh, this one is too tough for him. Okay, maybe it's not for him. No. Learning is for knowing. Because children should not be learning anything that is not going to be useful in their lives in the first place. So if they are put it in the curriculum, that means it's useful. So that child should know it. So that's what homeschooling will help you to do. So if you're the one, even though the child brings it home, you know that these schools are you're sending the children to school, are outsourcing the academics. But when the child doesn't know something, you be on your toes to make sure that they get it. And just stop blaming, because sometimes these people are in such tight shoes that you don't blame them. Honestly, we just need to overhaul our entire educational system. And when I talk to teachers, they also agree with me. The system is faulty in the first place. Homeschooling provides better teaching. Yes, because it's tailor made, right? It's tailor made to the children's needs, their interests. For example, my child can just be, well, we are learning, and he just start talking about airplanes. He drifts the airplane. Then we try and walk around that airplane to the topic we are talking about. Even in devotion. So during, like today, during devotion, we were using this book during devotion, and we stumbled on military time, right? When you have the 1700s, 2000s, military time. So I started telling my children about my dad, because my dad was a general in the army, and that's the time that we use at home. He's always talking about 2000, 17. So I started telling them about that. And I started teaching them. It had nothing to do with devotion, so to say. But it was an opportunity, because that's how I teach. I believe that opportunity will raise their heads in different ways. So you need to touch on it. And you find out that my 5-year-old will know about military time, even though maybe something that is meant to be taught in the curriculum, maybe at primary 5, but he will get to know it. So when he gets to that area, it will be a walkover for him. So I want to say, as parents, you have many opportunities when their heads at you, in your home and outside when you take your children. Teach your children. Don't say you are tired. Tell them there's a reason why you have an exposure. That exposure is meant to be passed down to your children. Don't joke with it. Even in your spiritual life, that exposure is for a reason. It's for you to pass it down to your children, to mentor them and coach them. And not be waiting, oh, they will do it in primary 5 in school. I beg, leave it. Like somebody was telling me, I was telling somebody about, I was telling somebody about continents or so. And she was like, I beg, let them teach them in class. I say, goodness, you know the continent, you can't teach your child. They're waiting for them to do. Do you know when you teach your child first, as a part-time homeschooling mom, when they get to the class, it will be a walkover for them. And definitely they will never forget, because the class will just be a consolidation of that knowledge. And that knowledge is going to enter long-term memory. And they will never forget it for life. But we don't get it. As parents, we don't get it. That you're just given an opportunity to send these things to their long-term memory. So you say, oh, I'm paying school fees now. I beg, I'm paying school fees. So no, let the teacher hustle that. No way, no way, no way. And that's why I always encourage, you need to start part-time homeschooling your children. You need to do that. Part-time homeschooling your children. I always hear, I heard one statistic, I always hear about children, who are homeschooled doing very well, when they enter university. There's one research I saw. The home educated typically scores about 15 to 30% above public school students. for academics. You can imagine. So you can see that it's such a blessing. It's such a good thing to do. It's such a good thing to consider as parents. Homeschooling is such a beautiful thing to consider as parents. Also for children who are entrepreneurs, who have already found their purpose, who have already started doing something about it. It always gives them ample time, to begin to do those works, to begin to explore. I always heard during the pandemic how children were finding themselves during the pandemic. That's what it's meant to be. That's what we are enjoying as homeschoolers. Our children are discovering themselves so easily, so easily. It's opening up to them so easily. They don't have to prime anything. It's showing up because there's ample time. There's ample time. So instead of shouting boredom, they begin to look for what to do. And especially when you're not fixing them on TV. Excuse me. Especially when you're not just fixing them on TV alone, but you're allowing them to explore and you've created an environment for learning at home. All right, so I think I've come to the end and I'll be awaiting your questions. Mary Beth.
All right, Z, I got carried away. I was listening to you. Then all right. So thank you so much. You said a lot. You said a lot, a lot. I mean, you got me when you said during the pandemic, a lot of parents said their children were discovering themselves. And it's as in it's something that was all over the place. People were raving about how they found this about their child, how they found that about themselves. And these same people that are telling you how they found out this are the same people you will mention homeschooling to, and they will still tell you all sort of things. In my head, I'm like, okay, if the pandemic didn't teach us anything,
I'm telling you,
nothing is going to teach
nothing will
us.
teach us. Nothing.
Nothing will teach us. Somebody said, when she realized that most of us as parents, all we've been doing or all we'll continue to do is make excuses, was when the pandemic came and the pandemic ended and a lot of us still didn't do or still didn't connect with our children the way we're supposed to connect. So there are a lot of things. Oh, I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to make time with the children. I want to do this with the children. It's because I don't have time. It's because of work and all of that. But the pandemic came and there was no work. And still you couldn't do that because you have lost the ability to connect because all these years you have disconnected.
That's
So
right.
sometimes it's not really the time. It's
It's
not the
not.
time, really. It's just excuses that we have been making and we will still continue to make. Because the pandemic forced us to be at home for months, not one, not two. For many months, we were at home. Yet, we still couldn't do or make the best of the time we had with our children. But for a lot of families, children discovered themselves, parents found out about their children,
Yeah.
and all of that. So thank you so much. I'm going to look around to see if we have questions. There are a lot of re-echoing of your words here. People are re-echoing as in it's like you say something and it hits me, and I'm like, damn. Like, okay, all right. So someone said, my children ask questions. Let me put that up. So she said, my children ask more questions about their bodies during shower time. It's not a question, but I think
And
something you said made her say that. All right. So anyone, if you have questions, please put them so that we can ask the Z. If you don't ask her these questions now, when you want to ask her this question, you'll be paying for it, oh. Exactly. You'll be paying for it. It's not every day that we'll get her to come and stay here, and be talking to us. So you better ask all the questions that you have right now. Z, there's another thing that is really very profound. You've talked a lot about our education needing overhauling, and that's the truth. Our education needs overhauling. And most times when you find, a lot of times when you find schools that are trying their best to do the right thing, you can actually see them. There are very few of them that are even trying, to come close. There is this emphasis on grades, 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 grades. There's the emphasis on grades, 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 and then everybody. I mean, we have become what's it called now? It has become a mindset for us. Yes, it has become a mindset that you find parents thinking of particular schools for their children because just because they say the children from that school get good grades. So everything we're thinking about is grades, 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 and then we forget about potentials. You talked about potentials. So you go to a place where children have to, I mean, children are stretched in a way not because they have the ability or not because they have the potential or not. I mean, you're not stretching them because you can, I mean, the child is leading you and you can see that the child can do more. You're not challenging the child. You are stretching the child beyond the child's capacity. And so the child is constantly under pressure. The child is constantly under pressure to perform because there's a constant competition in the classroom. Someone said to me, I asked questions, at some point my son was taking common entrances to go to secondary school. And I asked questions and all of that. Okay, what is it about this particular school? What makes it like really, why is everybody talking about this place? And they said to me, oh, sure, you think that your child is very, I mean, as parents, we think our children are like really very smart and all of that. You will see your child that is doing very well where he is. He will come here and he will get 92 and he will be the 50th person in line. Then I said, he has 92 and you have to make him feel bad about his 92. So what exactly are the outcomes that what are we looking for? Like really? Like a child gets a 96 or 92 or 94, and then you have to put him in line to know that something 50 people came ahead of you. What's the point for that part? Do you understand? What's the point for that part?
In fact, people ask me about competition for my children and tell me, your children will need to compete. And I've said that's the very reason why they are not even in school. Because the truth is that that's the killer of potential. Many times as these children, they are finding their footings. They are finding their footings in life. It's not the end. But we make this thing look like it's everything.
Yeah.
Do you get? And that's why you're wondering, oh, this one was doing well when he was in primary school. Now he's not doing well again. He's now in secondary school or in life. He's no more doing well and all of that. Because you made him feel like he has arrived. For some of the children, you feel you have arrived, like, oh, I'm good now, I'm good. So I don't need to do much, I'm good. There are potentials my child has. He doesn't know because I don't sing it. I do not let him know. Why? Because I want him to push to the peak of what he can push. Yeah. So, but if you're going to go and compete with another person, it will get to his head that he has that potential at some very high level. And for some people, it might not be that. It might not make them retrogress. But instead, it begins to seed evil thing in their hearts. How? There was this story, I don't know whether you heard, it happened in Lagos, of a child putting acid in another child's bottle because the child
because she did better.
Can you imagine what we are creating?
Exactly.
Can you imagine what we are? And we have not read, we have not reached political level. So you can see our killing people. Where it started from. Killing people for what? To go and serve. You can kill another human being as sacrifice because you want to serve another person. I don't get it.
Exactly.
So, the whole thing is misplaced. And as parents, let me tell you now, that competition is for you and not your child. Say the truth. It's your ego.
It's your ego.
And not that. Can we let these children be for a moment and let them discover themselves? Let them come out. You want to show all of us. That's why you will now create line and be putting 50 children above somebody else. What are you trying to do with that? Kill their esteem. Look at it all over the place. Children are giving up. In education, is this competition? If a child is failing, you did not teach well. Come
Yeah.
on. What is all this? If a child is failing, something is wrong. If my
Something is
child doesn't get something, I know that I have not communicated it. I go back to it. I go and look for help.
mm-hmm.
I go and look for how to get it to him, not saying, oh, yeah, see, you're a C student now. That is education
Yes,
scam. It's a scam. It's a scam. That your education is a scam. If it's to just put people on grades and say, oh, you're not a student, you're a student for life. As a coach, anybody that comes to you, you should make that person better. That's what we're coming to you for. Not say, oh, this one, this is
exactly.
your life, this is your destiny, see, it's your destiny. Come on.
This risk is your destiny.
Yes. Teachers are not teaching well. Sometimes we don't teach properly in the way the child will get.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that got A, you use it to massage your ego that somebody got something. Meanwhile, that child, it might be something the parent is doing. And that's why I tell you, parents, stop folding your hand. A parent might be nurturing something out there,
And you
like
are
what
not.
is doing with her son. He's in class and somebody is comparing her child to, oh, what's happening in the school. Said, oh, because of her child, the school is good. Meanwhile, she's burning night candles to be able to augment. So go and augment your own. Go
Yeah,
and
and you
augment.
know we do that. We do that a lot. Z. We do that a lot. We look at 1, 2, 3 people, and I'll look at 1, 2, 3 children's reports. And then we conclude, oh, the school is good. The school is good. You hear a child makes a feat. Okay, like let's say what's her name, Victoria, or is that Victory? What's the girl, the lady that made the 17-year-old that had all
I
stage
think
A's
Victoria.
and all that. And then the next thing you're Googling what school, what school, what school. You're not
I
supposed
know.
to ask what parents. When I hear things like that, when I hear stories like that, after I've gone like, oh, God bless this child, I go straight to look for who the parent is. I begin to research the parent and what the parent has done, if there's anything that I can find, because I know that it doesn't stand on its own. It doesn't. There is always the parental influence, and a lot of us do not want to put that part. We don't want to put that parental influence. Yet we want to continue. I'm not saying that isn't the place of the school, but we
Yeah.
want to keep giving credit to a particular place and all of that. In a school that you probably have 200 students, and then 2 people or 3 people come out with flying colors, and yet you're still looking for the name of the school. Do you understand?
Yes.
All
I get
right.
it.
So there's a question here before we run off. Someone said this is a very popular question that people ask homeschoolers. Wouldn't homeschooling deprive my children from socializing with their peers? So what do you say to this? Because this is what I hear every time. This is what I hear every time.
In fact, that's one thing somebody will tell you. You see, I have no problem with homeschooling, but you see this socialization. Then I tell them, then you actually have no problem, because even the socialization is not a problem. Because when you look at it, it doesn't stop your children from socializing.
Yeah.
Socializing is not only for schools, it's not for one place. You can socialize in different places. So if you have chosen homeschooling, you want to begin to create those opportunities for your children to socialize. Because when you want to check even what kind of socialization do children really get in schools, you answer it. Check it. What kind of socializations do they get in school? We are hearing all sorts every day. All sorts that is going on. All sorts of socialization, sodomy, all sorts kind of socialization, going on, drugs. So what are we talking about? So if you are, especially for the little children, when they're just trying to get their food, it's very good for you to know who they're socializing with and be available when they're socializing. So you're taking them to the park, you are looking, you're taking them, you take them to church, it's for a short period, or you take them to the mosque, it's a short period, so you can hear from them what has happened, because you guys already have a very good bonding. Okay, so there are many places you take them to cousins' houses, friends' houses. They go out. Children, my children will not even stay. There's always one place or the other to go to visit. When you take them to the mall, they're socializing. You take them to the mall, you give them a go at the cashier. Let them talk to them, you know. Let them
Yeah.
approach, let them greet, let them approach the security man. You teach them all those things you are teaching at home. There's opportunity for them to begin to practice them before your
Mhm.
eyes. So you can correct them and tailor them. That's how it should be, actually. We need to be there to tailor them, and you find out that your job gets lesser when they are older,
Yeah.
because they have seen this opportunity firsthand. And that's why people will tell you that homeschoolers are good communicators. They
Mhm.
can be very independent anywhere you take them.
Mhm.
Look at it, even in church class, I know what I get as reports about my
Yeah.
children. I know what I hear. They are the ones leading the class, they are the ones being the teachers of the class, and all of that. They always come to meet me. Who's your mom? I'm telling you. So what are we talking
Very.
about? And I like to tell people, this is not about Z. There's one special thing. I'm ready to pour that same thing into you, for you to know it's not something. Oh, your children are special. No way. There's a method. There's
There's a
something.
method.
There's a method. There's a method. If you read Mary Beth's posts, it's just that many of us don't want knowledge. You will see
Mm.
the method. You will see some of those things drop. You will see it. Even though you don't want to buy anything, as you are in this community, it's a blessing. You will see
Yeah.
those things drop. Begin to apply. Begin to
Mhm.
apply.
Thank you so much, Dee. I mean, these things you're saying are just completely, I mean, true. It's the same. It's the same. We all come from the same kind of parenting, more or less from our generation and all of that. The only thing that distinguishes you really is the knowledge that you have, the fact that you want more knowledge and all of that. And the truth is, whatever you give energy will grow. So if you give parenting your children and being intentional about every part of it, it will grow. So if you're giving it, I mean, if you're giving it attention, you will see it grow, you will see it flourish. And that's why we just finished a new book. We just launched a new book yesterday. It's going to be up for pre-order by tomorrow. Really. And in that book, it's just stories, just as you said, just stories that when you read, you will pick out the methods from the story. Because we all struggled. I said it. I started reading to my son when I was pregnant. But it didn't mean that at 6 he would pick a book on his own and start reading. It was a process. Do you understand? He would listen to me read aloud to him. He loved it. He enjoyed it. But come pick your book on your own and pick a novel and read. No, he would rather read science stuff and read stuff, specific things about, science stuff and all things like that. But to pick a storybook like nonfiction, he was not interested. It was a journey, and he got there one day and started picking it and started reading the seeds that were planted, the process, what the journey. That's what his diary is about. His steps towards purpose. That's what it is. His journey, the failures, and all of that. And as you said, when you're homeschooling, you're not in a rush. You give everything time. You're not in competition with anybody. I have never gone to school and I have gone like rake for my child after they give me his report. When they give me his report, I don't even look at it. I take it and I hand it to him. And then he looks at it and I'm like, does that represent you? And he goes, yes. Are you cool with it? And he says, yes. That's all I do in front of the teacher. Nothing more. Are you cool? Does it represent you? Is that you? And he's like, well done. Big hug. He hugs himself and then we hug. I don't look at the grade. Don't care. Really don't care. The place that we even look at is behind the skills, what he's doing in the classroom. That's what I'm concerned about. So it takes like 2-3 days before I come and look at the grades and do you need help? That's where I come from. And after that, at that point, how can I help you? I see the grades are dwindling here or they are lower. Is there any way I can help you? Or do you know why it is like this? And that's it. And there is time to grow. So he's never afraid to come to me with anything. As in, he's never afraid because he knows, oh, well, I have to work more in this area. And that's how our children should look at learning. When they're not getting it, they just know that I need more help in this area. They should be able to say to you, I need help in this area. So thank you so much, Z. Someone, one last question before we run. We've overshot our time. He says, part-time homeschooling, does it entail only teaching them what they've been taught in school?
Okay, no, it's much more, you
It's
know.
much more.
It's much more sex education,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, character building, all sorts. Now, why I like to start homeschooling for anyone who comes to me is from your goals. You need a vision for your family, and that's where we start from. So that vision needs to be taught at home. That vision needs to be taught. So you are not just hanging it and be looking at it. No, the teaching is what will bring it to come to pass. So some of us, we have things like entrepreneurship. We want to raise entrepreneurs. We want to raise children who are kingdom giants. We want to raise children who advance God's kingdom. We want to raise children who have character, who are competent, skills. You don't want to raise those kind of. We want to raise lifelong learners. For me, I had lifelong learning strongly on my goal, and that's why
Yeah.
we eat books. It's because of that vision. That's why we read the way we read. So it might not be exactly the same for someone else. It might be something
Hmm.
else that stop in what you do. It's not that you're not reading to your children, but there might be something else that is stopped for
It's
you.
tough. Yeah.
You understand me? And also kingdom advancement for us is top. And that's why I don't joke with our devotion. We have up to 1 hour, 30 minutes in God's word. Why?
Wow.
Because there is a destination. Okay? So your daily life must look like your goals. So that's what you put in your part-time homeschooling as argument, because you find out that the schools will not be doing that. Character building. You should not be waiting for schools to teach your children how to cook, how to sit down, how to lay their beds, how to clean the house. You can put all of that instead of complaining and yelling, because most of us don't teach. We just
Mm-hmm.
shout, you didn't do this, oh, you didn't do that. That's all. No teaching, no
Yes.
steps. No, how do you get to remind yourself if you have forget? Like I tell my son, I like, okay, he comes and say, Mommy, I forgot to do. I say, if you know you've been forgetting, what do you do? What
To
do you
remind
do
yourself.
when you keep on to prevent that? It says set up procedure. Simple. So go set up a procedure to help you not to do that again. Because
Go
that
set
thing
up
can
what? What this
a
is? Go
procedure,
the procedure.
a
Okay, yeah.
procedure. Because if not, it will come again.
Yeah.
And it shows you've not learnt anything.
Yeah. All right.
So
Thank you so much, Z. Thank you. Thank you so much, Z. What we're saying here is we're not saying pull your children from school if that is not a goal for you, if that's not a vision, if that's not what you want to do. We're saying even with your children going to school, you can still homeschool and you can still do the part that you can do at home. And there is nothing like we don't have time. When we create time, we will have time. And our children are worth every bit of our time. That's what Z is trying to say here. Your children are worth every bit of your time. And yes, you might come to the point where you want to do this. At that point, you need skills. And people like Z are here to help you with those skills. I said at the beginning, I am an educator, but when I went to her, there was so much to learn as far educating in the home is completely different. That's the truth about it. So thank you everyone who made time to be here. If you want to reach Z, she has amazing courses that will help you even if you want to just your homeschool passion. All right. She has amazing courses. She has a book. I'm reading your book right now. What I do is I just I don't read books. I've learned not to read books from the beginning to the end anymore. I just read books as per the need. So at this point, I need a particular thing. I go and I take a chapter and I read because I realize when you just read rules, sometimes you read and you dump the book and it's gone for that period. So that way you keep coming back to the book over and over again. So I've read some chapters, months before now. All right. So thank you so much, Z. Thank you for making time to be here. We do not take it for granted. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and for giving back. Okay. This is what we want our children to do. Thank you for setting the pace for us to follow. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank
All
you, too.
right.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
All right, so thank you
Bye.
everyone who joined us. So we're coming back here at 7 when Akugo will be talking to us about how we can nurture global citizens. Some of us look around us and we are like, there's nothing left in Nigeria for my children. I want my children to get an education outside the country. I don't know how to go about it. I don't know if I can afford it and all of that. Akugo is the expert. She's a 3 times scholarship recipient. So if there is anyone that can tell you about scholarships, about fellowships, about maximizing the potential of your child and opportunities in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, and all of that, then this woman is the person. So go have dinner or make dinner with the kids and come back at 7. Let's do this. Thank you, everyone. For making time to be here. Okay, we do not take it for granted that you are here. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your parenting journey. Please, when you come for conferences like this or sessions like this, okay, you may not be able to do everything that the speaker has talked about. Everything may not even resonate with you. Look for 1, 2 things that you can take and apply immediately. That's my advice because that's what I do. In every session that I sit, I do not leave without taking at least one thing. And that one thing, I implement it the moment I shut my computer. The moment I shut my computer from that system, I take that one thing and I go to my goal for the month or for the next month and I put it right there to implement immediately. So we want to you want to apply the things that you listen to. If not, it's just going to be stories and stories and stories and stories that you hear. Okay? So thank you very much. We'll see you at 7. Bye. All right. Teaching them at home will find blah blah. All right then. So have a lovely evening. Bye.